What is the plot? We should know something about the plot. The novel is prefaced by a fictitious foreword by John Ray Jr., an editor of psychology book. So we find a preface of the story of the novel. And this preface is the foreword written by John Ray, and this John Ray is the editor of psychology books. Ray states that he is presenting a memoir written by a man using the pseudonym Humbert, who had recently died of heart disease while awaiting a murder trial in jail. The memoir begins with Humbert's birth in Paris in 1910. This is the year of birth of Humbert. He spends his childhood on the French Riviera, where he falls in love with his friend Annabel Lee. His youthful and physical unfulfilled love is interrupted by Annabel's premature death from typhus, which causes Humbert to become sexually obsessed with a specific type of girl aged between 9 to 14, whom he refers to as nymphets. After graduation, Humbert works as an English teacher and begins editing an academic literary textbook. Before the outbreak of World War II, Second World War, Humbert moves to New York. In 1947, he moves to Ramsdale, a small town in New England, where he can calmly continue working on his book. The house that he intends to live in is destroyed in a fire, and in his search for a new home, he meets the widow Charlotte Hayes, who is accepting tenants. Humbert visits Charlotte's residence out of politeness and initially intends to decline her offer. However, Charlotte leads Humbert to her garden, where her 14-year-old daughter Dolores is sunbathing. Humbert sees in Dolores the perfect nymphet, the embodiment of his old love Annabel, and quickly decides to move in. The headmistress, Pratt, believes that Beardsley girls must focus on the 4 Ds. These 4 Ds are dramatics, dance, debating, and dating. When Dolores is sent to summer camp, Humbert receives a letter from Charlotte confessing her love for him and gives him an ultimatum. He is to either marry her or move out immediately. Initially, Humbert was terrified. Then he begins to see the chance in the situation of being Dolores' stepfather, and so marries Charlotte for instrumental reasons. Charlotte later discovers Humbert's diary, in which she learns of his desire for her daughter and the disgust that Charlotte arouses in him. Shocked and humiliated, Charlotte decides to flee with Dolores and writes letters to her friends who was warning them of Humbert. Disbelieving Humbert's false assurance that the diary is a sketch for a future novel, Charlotte runs out of the house to send the letters but is killed by a swerving car. Humbert destroys the letters and retrieves Dolores from camp, claiming that her mother is seriously ill and has been hospitalized. He then takes her to a high-end hotel that Charlotte had earlier recommended. Humbert knows he will feel guilty if he consciously rapes Dolores, and so tricks her into taking a sedative by saying it is a vitamin. As he waits for the pill to take effect, he wanders through the hotel and meets a mysterious man who seems to be aware of Humbert's plan for Dolores, excuses himself from the conversation, and returns to the hotel room. There he discovers that he had been fobbed or seated with a milder drug, as Dolores is merely drowsy and wakes up frequently, drifting in and out of sleep. He dares not touch her that night. In the morning, Dolores reveals to Humbert that she actually has already lost her virginity, having engaged in sexual activity with an older boy at a different camp a year ago. They means Humbert and Dolores, Humbert and Lolita, start a sexual relationship then. After leaving the hotel, Humbert reveals to Dolores that her mother is dead. Humbert and Dolores travel across the country, driving all day and staying in motels. Humbert desperately tries to mention Dolores' interest in travel and himself bribes her in exchange for sexual favors. They finally settle in Beardsley, a small New England town. Humbert adopts the role of Dolores' father and enrolls her in a local private school for girls. Humbert jealously and strictly controls all of Dolores' social gatherings and forbids her from dating and attending parties. It is only at the instigation of the school headmaster, who regards Humbert as a strict and conservative European parent, that he agrees to Dolores' participation in the school play, the title of which is the same as the hotel in which Humbert met the mysterious man. The day before the premiere of the performance, a serious quarrel breaks out between Dolores and Humbert, and Dolores runs out of the house. Humbert finds her a few moments later. She tells him that she wants to leave town and continue traveling. Humbert is initially delighted, but as he travels, he becomes increasingly suspicious. He feels that he is being followed by someone Dolores is familiar with. The man following them is Clara Quilty, a friend of Charlotte and a famous playwright who wrote the play that Dolores was to participate in. In the Colorado mountains, Dolores falls ill. Humbert takes her into a local hospital, from where she is discharged one night by her uncle. Humbert knows she has no living relatives, and he immediately embarks on a frantic search to find Dolores and her abductor, but ultimately fails. For the next 2 years, Humbert goes through a moderately functional relationship with a young alcoholic named Rita. Deeply depressed, Humbert unexpectedly receives a letter from Dolores, now 17, telling him that she is married, pregnant, and in desperate need of money. Humbert, armed with a pistol, tracks down Dolores' address and gives her the money, $4,000, which was due as an inheritance from her mother. As a tenant, Humbert had to pay it. Humbert learns that Dolores' husband, a deep mechanic, is not her abductor. Dolores reveals to Humbert that Quilty took her from the hospital and that she was in love with him, but she was rejected when she refused to star in one of his pornographic films. After that, Dolores also rejects Humbert's request to live with him. Humbert goes to the drug-addicted Quilty's mansion and shoots him several times. Quilty died a very dramatic death. Humbert is arrested and put in jail, where he continues to write his memoir, stipulating that it can only be published upon Lolita's death. In his closing thoughts, he reaffirms his love for Dolores and asks for his memoir to be withheld from public notice until after her death. Dolores dies in childbirth on Christmas Eve in 1952. Humbert dies of heart failure, a coronary thrombosis, and The manuscript is sent to John Ray Jr. Last line of the novel. What is the last line? The last line is, I am thinking of arcs and angels, the secret of durable pigments, prophetic sonnets, the refuse of art. And this is the only immortality you and I may share, my Lolita. Thank you, friends. Hope to see you in the next video.